I'm Derrick Muhammad, member of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 10. Thank you for responding to our call. It's Saturday morning, so I know you have a lot of stuff to do, so we want to get right into it. We are essentially here to apprise the community of what we think are detrimental impacts of the Oakland A's baseball stadium and condominium project. And we say all that glitters ain't gold. This is one of the renderings of their project. They've changed it a couple of times. I don't know if this is still the one that they're utilizing. There's another rendering. And while it may look attractive and beautiful, we believe that it is highly detrimental to the community of West Oakland. This is an aerial view of Howard Terminal and the surrounding community. This is West Oakland. This is our community, which is an extension of our family, and our families are the most valuable assets that we have. And for decades, this community right here has been the stepchild of Oakland, California, cut off from downtown by the building of 980. You had a post office that went in that destroyed what was called Harbor Homes, and you had the BART train that also disrupted a thriving black business district. And so now, what's being proposed is a further plundering of what's left of our black community. And I don't think it's appropriate for any sane thinking person to sit by and watch them further decimate our community. I want to say that Local 10 is the premier black local on the West Coast. And while some of our members may not live in West Oakland anymore, we all have roots in this community because we all have roots in the South. And all of our predecessors landed at the 16th Street train station. So I just want to put that out there. This is another view of what's being proposed. The purple sections represent condominium units. They're proposing to build 3,000 condominium units. The pink section represents retail space. The orange represents open space to be used by the public. And of course, the green circular space is the stadium. They're proposing a 400-room hotel and a 3,500-seat amphitheater. Whenever developers develop land that conforms to standards of more affluent groups of people, privileged groups of people, the value of that land and the price of everything around it increases. And that has the effect of pushing people out. There's a term for it. That term is called gentrification. Gentrification is a process of neighborhood change that includes economic change in a historically disinvested neighborhood by means of real estate investment and new higher income residents moving in, as well as demographic change, not only in terms of income level, but also in terms of changes in the education level or racial makeup of residents. That's the Lincoln Theater. My mom went there when she was a little girl. She said a movie was a dime. There's a such thing called spatial deconcentration. And West Oakland was a victim of that. The strategy of spatial deconcentration, which became a federal policy in the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, was implemented in West Oakland. The policy of spatial deconcentration involves the dispersal of the urban poor from the inner cities and the resettlement of their neighborhoods with middle-class residents through a process of disinvestment and redlining on one hand and predatory lending on the other. The combination of alternatively denying conventional bank loans and insurance to property owners in low-income neighborhoods while making available high-risk, predatory-type loans typically results in mass evictions, foreclosures, and abandonment of property in the inner cities. The resulting ghettos are then declared blighted areas and designated for redevelopment or urban renewal. And that's a hallmark situation for communities like West Oakland. World famous Slim Jeepers. Gone but not forgotten. The result of this highly calculated plan was that West Oakland and numerous other urban areas would languish in isolation for decades. This isolation would help to produce the environment that made West Oakland ripe for drugs, violence, diminished property value, and the most economically devastated area in the city of Oakland. And that was all calculated. This map, where you see the light purple and the dark purple. The light purple covers a great portion of Oakland, and the light purple represents families that are at risk of gentrification and displacement. The dark purple represents that there's ongoing gentrification and displacement already occurring. And that's for low-income families in this city. Displacement occurs when any household is forced to move from its residence by conditions outside of its control. Homeless rate in Oakland, California, and this is based on the study published by the Department of Race and Equity in the city of Oakland. The homeless rate among African Americans was 1,797 per 1,000 compared to 43 per 1,000 for Asians. The rate among whites was 268.6 per 1,000. The rate for Latinos was 329.3 per 1,000. Eviction notices. Majority of African American census tracts had the highest rates of eviction notices. 141.6 per 1,000 renter-occupied housing units. The rate was much higher than the rate for majority Asian census tracts, which was 17.4 per 1,000. The rates for majority white census tracts was 41 per 1,000, and majority Latino census tract was 66.2 per 1,000. And as you can see, both in the eviction notices and in the homeless rate, Black people lead in both categories. Transit-induced gentrification. Rail station areas more likely to experience gentrification and displacement than areas without a transit stop. Talk about that a little bit. So, the other issue that Local 10 has with this project is that we believe that it will initiate what is called deindustrialization. And there are historic examples of deindustrialization that we'll get into. What is it? Deindustrialization is a process of social economic change caused by the removal or reduction of industrial capacity or activity in a country or region, especially of heavy industry or manufacturing industry. It is the opposite of industrialization. At the Port of Oakland, while there is not necessarily manufacturing taking place, it is considered a heavy industry. And it is an industry that fuels the economy of this entire region. And we believe that once you start placing houses adjacent to industry, you subject that industry to the complaints of the neighbors that will be living next to that industry. Based on the private nuisance policies that exist in the state of California, every homeowner or renter has the right to the quiet enjoyment of their home. They have automatic standing to complain about that which they think is a nuisance. Right now, in the city of Berkeley, there is a historic black barbecue restaurant called KC's on San Pablo. KC's, there's a lot of black folks from the South that know what the process of barbecuing exists of. But KC right now is not able to even use their ovens to smoke their meat because the neighbors complained about the smoke coming from the ovens. So what we're getting at KC's is not that good old down-home Texas barbecue anymore because the neighbors apparently have a problem with it. Right in this community, right on this street, I think, Adeline, there was a black church in 2015, Pleasant Grove, doing nothing out of the ordinary, playing black music on a Sunday morning, which consists of organs, which consists of a drum, which consists of a tambourine, a piano, and some good old down-home singing, faced complaints from their neighbors, the new privileged, high almighty neighbors about the music on a Sunday morning being too loud. So this is what we're talking about. And this is the problem that we have with this condominium project. And I say condominium project because I think that's exactly what it is. I believe the ballpark is secondary to the desire to build luxury condominiums and an amphitheater and a 400-room hotel. And then double dip on the parcel left in East Oakland. It's not about baseball. This is about gobbling up land. This is a real estate investor and a baseball team owner second. The social cost of deindustrialization. Deindustrialization undermines the social fabric of communities. The social cost of deindustrialization include the loss of jobs, homes, and health care, reductions in the tax base, which in turn lead to the cuts in necessary public services, increases in crime both immediately and long-term, decaying local landscapes, increases drug and alcohol abuse, family violence, and depression. That's Detroit. Detroit was the motor city of America. Detroit was one of the richest cities, not just in America, but in the entire world. This is Detroit today. The loss of industry has a destabilizing effect on the community. Deindustrialized communities have had to endure some of the highest rates of violence and murder in the country. Between 1985 and 2010, Detroit, St. Louis, Camden, and Youngstown, Ohio were routinely populated on the national top 10 list for murder rate per capita, each appearing no fewer than 15 times during that span. Youngstown was known for the production of steel. They had an economy based on the steel industry. Guess what their economy is based on now? The prison industry. They built 4 prisons within 5 years, all privately owned. So then you couple deindustrialization with the influx of drugs. We saw it in the 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s. Many of us got caught up in that. Many of us went to prison. Many of us died. According to legal scholar and civil rights activist Michelle Alexander, the increases in crime and drug use in deindustrialized communities, along with the concurrent uproar over the civil rights movement, played a significant role in motivating the infamous war on drugs, which rather than curb the steep increases in crime and incarceration, served only to magnify them. So we want to get through our meeting. We have a lot of information to cover, and this information is vital. Uninformed people are like dead people, wasted people. So if we give you the information, you can make an informed decision. Causes of deindustrialization. A shift from manufacturing to service sectors of the economy. As countries develop, manufacturing often declines as production is shifted to trading partners where the cost of labor are lower. This is what happened to the garment industry in the United States. According to a 2016 report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the apparel industry experienced the largest decrease among all manufacturing industries, with a decrease of 85%. Americans are still buying as many clothes as ever, but most apparel companies have moved production overseas. This result is a relative shift in employment from the manufacturing sector to the service sector. Another cause of deindustrialization. A trade deficit whose effects preclude investment in manufacturing. When a country purchases more goods than it sells, it experiences a trade imbalance, which can reduce the resources needed to support domestic manufacturing and other production. A classic example of this is the Detroit auto industry. The Detroit auto industry reigned supreme through the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and into the mid-70s. And after that, when the Japan automakers really jumped off and began importing automobiles into the country, and we began to buy them, we saw a decline in Detroit. The other issue we got a problem with. 6,000 jobs. The Oakland A's have been peddling this story to the black community, who is the most marginalized community in this city, the most unemployed community in this city. You need a job. So here they come with some number that we haven't seen confirmed. 6,000 jobs. There are 162 baseball games in a season, half of which are home games. How does 81 home games produce 6,000 jobs? It's a good question. 81 home games producing 6,000 jobs. The Oakland A's refused to identify each job, line by line, the criteria for each job, and the wages associated with each job. You should demand that. Somebody wants you to give up your community. That's all you have, is your home and your neighborhood and your family. They told you they got 6,000 jobs, but they didn't tell you what the job is, do I qualify for the job, and how much I'm gonna make. They haven't told you anything. They just said 6,000 jobs. And some of us are believing. We refuse to allow the community to be duped into supporting a project thinking that it will receive a benefit that doesn't actually exist. Now, obviously, whenever you build an edifice, there are construction jobs. Those construction jobs are temporary jobs. Once the project is complete, the worker is unemployed again. Additionally, the trade unions in this area don't have a practice of recruiting in the black community. They don't have a practice of coming to get you. They're not coming to get you. They're not coming to get you. That's a mantra I want to keep saying. I want you to burn it in your head. They're not coming to get you. They don't have a practice of recruiting in the black community. A person cannot get a job on a union construction project unless they are a member of the union that's working on the project. So if they're not coming to get you, how you going to become a part of their union? And if you're not a part of their union, how you going to get the job? We got to think today, man. Now, there are service and food vendor jobs. Let's talk about that. Now, they have an existing workforce at the East Oakland Coliseum. And you know what they told the workforce that's already there in East Oakland? The service and vendor jobs that are to be performed at the new stadium have already been guaranteed for the current employees at the existing stadium. So the people that are working there now, they fill the new location with their existing job. So the question becomes, how many jobs are left? How many jobs are left for West Oaklanders? For the marginalized, unemployed, black people in this community? How many jobs are left? I threw this in there because I wanted to touch on another aspect of construction. And this is also based on the Equity Indicators report that was published by the Department of Race and Equity for the city of Oakland. It talks about black contractors and the amount of contracts that they get. The numbers are dismal in comparison to white and everybody else. The Oakland Equity Indicators report indicated that for prime construction and professional service contracts, 66.7% of African American contractors received contracts under $100,000, which was 3.4 times as often as white contractors. Additionally, white contractors received an average of $1,059,209 per contract, which was 11.87 times as much as African American contractors received on average. On average, black contractors received $89,000.